Of course, anytime you're trying to lose weight, you're going to go into a calorie deficit. Hunger is going to be part of the process, but the inability to deal with hunger is something that keeps a lot of people from being able to make the progress they want to, and perhaps this is something you've always struggled with in the past as well. So in this video, yes, I'm going to talk about some strategies you can take to help with hunger, but honestly, what might surprise you is the thing that's probably going to help more than anything is actually psychological. It's really submitting to the hunger. What I mean by that is accepting that it's part of the process, that it's something that you have to deal with, that just because you're hungry does not mean you have to eat. I think so often we feel like when the body's telling us that we're hungry, it means something's wrong and we better do something about it before something terrible happens, but that's just not the case. Now, certainly there are extreme scenarios, and especially if somebody is basically starving to death and way underweight or have extreme histories of crash dieting and things like that. Okay, that's a different story, and as long as you're not ravenously hungry all the time, 24/7, no matter how much you eat, you're still crazy hungry, that's a different ballgame. I'll touch more about that in a minute. But for the average person, hunger is normal. And the more you accept as part of the process and it's something you have to deal with, this is often the very thing that helps you not be so hungry. And that's because the more you think about how hungry you are and how you wish you weren't so hungry, the more it's on your mind and the more focused you're going to be on the hunger, and therefore you're going to be more hungry. Another thing to keep in mind is hunger typically goes away on its own at a certain point. If you find yourself in a situation where you're very hungry, but you can just learn to sit with it, it will go away. And of course, this is an extremely valuable tool to help keep your calories down and get the results you're after. What can be more tricky and surprising a lot of times is sometimes it's like food is almost like the gateway drug to hunger. Like you might not even be that hungry, but then you start eating and you finish your meal, but you find yourself still extremely hungry. This is very much normal. And especially if you've gotten really lean, you've been dieting for a long time, this is even more common. But the thing is, if you keep eating because you still feel hungry, you're probably just gonna keep feeling hungry until you finally have just stuffed yourself so silly, you'll probably end up feeling almost sick by the end of it. Whereas if you just say, okay, I'm gonna plan my meal, I'm gonna eat that meal, and then I'm gonna stop, and then wait a half hour, even though you're still hungry, give your body some time to digest the food and for things to catch up, and you'll usually find a half hour later, you're not hungry anymore. Now, one thing that could factor into your hunger is if you're someone who's done a lot of dieting in your life, especially constantly yo-yo dieting, a lot of crash dieting, and you've never taken a long period of time off of dieting, never working on getting your calories up, improving your hormones, getting your metabolism back into a better spot. This could be one of those situations where you find yourself ravenously hungry all the time and never feel full. And while sometimes we hear things like you should eat based off your body's normal hunger signals, while that can be a great thing for people who are trying to eat more intuitively, but have taken the time to improve their relationship with food, get their calories up, get their hormones in a better spot, and are in a good place, fine, that's great. But if you're someone who is in a bad spot with your metabolism, your relationship with food and body and everything is in a bad spot, if you just listen to your body and eat every time it's hungry, you're gonna be eating all the time, and your hunger signals are all messed up. And again, this is just your body's hormones, your body doing its job. It's not like you're just hardwired this way. It's your body's physiological response to what's happened. So if this is you, take the time to put your body into a better spot first, and then you can work on eating more intuitively. I'm gonna do a video here soon talking more about this, so I'll end that part of the video here. Now, some of the things you can do to help with more of the normal hunger is making sure you're eating a higher protein diet, eating plenty of fiber, plenty of fruits and vegetables, and things that fill you up more, this nutrient-dense foods. That's why eating cleaner can help with fat loss, because it helps you keep your calories down. And while you know me, I'm not against any foods. No foods are bad. No foods just lead to fat gain on their own. Certainly, eating a more nutrient-dense diet is gonna help not only fuel the body well and give you the micronutrients that you need, but also help you feel full. I can't tell you how many times people will say that they're super hungry, but their protein and fiber is constantly low. And I'll say, hey, if you want to help with this, get those numbers up. It's really going to help. And then the next week comes by, I'm so hungry, protein's still low, fiber's still low. And it's just like, I understand it's not fun. They're not the most fun foods in the world to eat, but being super hungry all the time isn't exactly fun either. You can also fill yourself up with some other foods that are very low calorie and more filling, take up a lot of space. Now, this is something that can be a little dangerous because, like I talked about in the beginning of the video, chasing hunger can sometimes make you even hungrier. So for instance, like when I got extremely lean, and of course was very hungry during that time because my body fat was so low, one of my favorite things to do was to make big batches of sugar-free Jello because there's almost no calories, takes up a lot of space, was filling, and that can help. But the problem is, if you're chasing that and you're just trying to shovel in sugar-free Jello and things like pickles and like just gnawing on raw spinach because you're so hungry, chasing that and constantly trying to make that hunger go away makes you think about it more and makes you more hungry. So you got to pay attention to this. If it helps you, great, because these are filling foods, but if you feel like you're chasing, it might make things worse. Another thing you can do, I just talked about this in my previous video, and that is make sure you're eating your meals around times when you find yourself typically hungry. Don't force yourself to eat during certain times of the day where you're not even hungry because you feel like you have to. There's no times of the day you have to eat. Breakfast isn't the most important meal of the day, especially if you're not hungry in the morning. So save your calories for when you're most hungry. Like me personally, I oftentimes eat 40-50% of my calories right before bed because that's when I'm always the hungriest. Work with your hunger signals, not against them. Now, of course, we can't overlook the emotional component to hunger and eating and cravings. This is valid, and you might not even be that hungry, but find yourself overeating a lot for other reasons, like trying to eat your feelings and your stress and trying to help cope with things and make yourself feel better in the moment. And if you do struggle with eating disordered tendencies and behaviors, please get help from a qualified therapist. It's no life to live, and I want you to be happy. And trust me when I tell you, just getting yourself a better body and trying to starve yourself there is not going to be the thing that does that for you. Now, I talked about how beneficial protein is and how much it can help, and you've probably heard me talk in the past about how protein is practically free calories, meaning you can almost eat as much protein as you want, and it's not going to add body fat to your frame. If you want to find out more about what I mean by that and dig into some research that shows not only is protein super helpful, but there's even been some studies that have shown you can eat more calories and lose more body fat by eating more through protein. So if you're interested in that video, check out this video up top next. Otherwise, I think you'll like this bottom video instead, and I'll see you in one of those other videos.